Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Numbers Don't Lie, Marketing Insights for Accountants. I'm Brad Pinzer.
And I'm Janelle Sikora. Welcome, everyone. We are very excited because we had to twist some arms and get this very special guest to agree to talk to us one more time because we sat down with him last time and realized that we didn't cover everything that we possibly could have. He's an absolute wealth of knowledge. And so we thought it would be beneficial for our listeners to have him on again and pick his brain a little more. So, welcome to Cameron Williams, owner of Kinley Consulting out of Georgia and a CPA. And so we've got a couple of things that we're going to be talking to Cameron about today. The first one, though, okay, so I do a monthly webinar called Marketing Talks, Cameron. And I get this question almost every month. And I know how Brad and I, would answer that question, but I would like for you to answer the question because you are someone that we look at as he's cracked the code. He's got this figured out. He's basically done what we tell everybody else to do. So I would love for you to share your wisdom with your peers. And the question is, you ready for it? You ready for it? How do I get more qualified leads?
All right. Ooh, jumping into it. Well, first off, thank you guys for having me back again. We had a lot of fun on the other episode, so super happy to be here. Now, to answer your question, how do you find qualified leads? I think you first have to start with, do you know what is a qualified lead for you? Because what's a
Yes.
qualified lead for you may not be like, I just talked to another accounting professional and he's like, hey, we want videographers, no more than 5 to 10 employees, doesn't make over this much, but typically a solopreneur. He knew what he wanted versus our case. We want more of a full-fledged marketing agency, can be a solo, but typically have 2 to 10 people. MRR, or if you want to go yearly revenue, is probably between, let's just say, 250 grand to over $1 million. So I think you first have to understand or figure out, what is your target ICA? Who do you want to help and serve, and why? In
Who's
our
ready to
case,
go?
we know those things because those are the people where we tend to see the biggest changes and effects. So outside of what you're posting or whatever your marketing is putting out there, which you want to be super consistent, we even have where when they click a link to book the discovery call with us, we even have qualifying questions on there. We go ahead and ask them, hey, what was your gross revenue last year? Hey, what's your average revenue the past 2 to 3 months? Are financials and up-to-date books even important for you? Because I didn't think we had to ask that, but I've learned you do. And what's the last one? And then would you be willing to make an investment of whatever our price range we want to see? Those questions help us to already determine, all right, am I getting on the phone with somebody who's kind of wasting my time, or do they just want to consult, or do they fit? Those things are already answered before I get on the call. So technically, I've never done it, but you could just delete it off the calendar, send them a nice email saying, hey, you don't fit our criteria. We would suggest you work with so-and-so. But for us, these are people who are in some type of pipeline that we have, whether that's our social media, a referral from somebody, from a mastermind. So we pretty much are already getting who we want. It's really just a matter of, can we make something happen and really close the deal on the sales call or not?
I love it. Okay, so just like you talked about in the other episode too, it takes, you've got to have a multiple channels going at all times because you never know exactly what's going to work and when it's going to work. So to have really predictable leads, you've got to kind of have that multi-channel approach. And it's funny because Brad and I talk about this all the time. Just like there's no magic pill to lose 50 pounds in 2 weeks because you've got a class reunion coming up, there's no magic pill to getting really good leads in there. You've got to actually create the strategy, execute the strategy, be patient, and stick with it. And it just takes a little time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, I mean, on the last episode, I know that you talked about like having like 3 to 5 different channels that you're working with, you're experimenting, you're testing, you're finding what's working, what's not working. You're doing more on the ones that are working, of course, and then maybe pulling back on the ones that aren't, maybe trying another different channel. How did you Tell me a little bit about that process for you, how you decided what channels to work on, and like kind of what channels are working and why.
Okay, good question. So it all started back when we started 6 years ago now, which is pre-COVID. I don't know why, but I thought I think back then it was like, if I do networking, that's going to bring me all the clients because all I got to do is tell people that I do accounting. Everybody needs accounting. It's the language of business, right? So I'm driving. If you've never been to Atlanta, Atlanta is huge.
Oh
Like
yeah.
there's the city, like downtown, but we call Atlanta basically anything that's like 15 to 20 minutes from 285. So 285 is everything inside, and then you go 15 or 20 minutes out of this huge circle. So you can literally go from the north side to the south side and it take you an hour, especially if it's traffic. So imagine me going to two, three, four different networking meetings. I may go Alpharetta in the morning at 9 a.m. and then go to Kennesaw, which is further north and west at 12, and then go down to Sandy Springs at 2, which is closer to the city. And so I'd be like, man, I'm not really getting any clients. I don't understand why. And that's when I started to say, man, I need to have multiple ways because if this isn't going to work, I can't just keep doing this. So then I'm like, well, maybe I'll go post some flyers in coffee shops. And I'm like, no, that's not going to work. And then I found a program, and then I think I talked about that on the last episode.
Mhm.
So that's the original way. To answer your question about why do I think you need multiple is for that exact same reason. Because if this one doesn't work for whatever reason, or maybe it's become outdated, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. So that's why, like for us, we do social media really heavy.
Mhm.
We are doing a lot more webinars and trying to speak in other people's stages. So that's one thing. Of course, you have your referrals, right, from current clients. Another one is we're in different mastermind groups where our target audience is. So that's one. And then the last one is probably we go to the niches industry conferences. So, like, since I'm in marketing agencies, we're going to go to Funnel Hacking Live, or we're going to go to the high level conference or traffic and conversions because that's where our people are. So, you need to be where your target people are. Not to mention, they've already kind of qualified themselves because if you've ever been to a Funnel Hacking Live, it's not like it's $200 a ticket. No, it may be $1,500 for a ticket, but then you got to stay at the hotel for 4 to 5 days. That's not $200 either. You're not staying at the Motel 6. You're staying at something nice that can accommodate all these people. So when you start doing the math, hey, 1,500 a ticket, 1,800. Let's keep math easy. 1,500 to stay at the hotel. These people had to spend 3 grand just to get here, not
Mhm.
including food, not including the plane ticket and traveling, Ubers and rental cars. So, hey, these people probably have some of the money I want, or they took a huge leap of faith. Either or.
Right.
So, when you start doing the math and calculating these different things, that will kind of help you to kind of identify, but it still goes back to do you even know who they are? If you're somebody who's a generalist, this is probably super hard for you because you just kind of take everybody. Well, I'll take a real estate and a mom and pop store and a record store and a restaurant and a marketing agency and a real estate agent. Well, there is no conference for you to go to because you do everybody.
That's right.
So I think those are kind of the benefits, which I think we kind of talked about that
Me
on the
too.
last episode of
Yeah.
why it's great to niche because I can do super focused efforts versus the generalist. Like what conference you gonna go to other than the accounting conference? And I'm not really trying to go there because I'm not trying to sell to anybody at QuickBooks. These are other accountants. I don't need
Right.
to go here. None of my
Right.
people are here.
Hmm.
So that I hopefully answered your question.
Very much. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Um, so Brad and I were talking before the show today, and we talk a lot about offers. And as marketers and salespeople, the most important thing that you have is an offer, especially when you're in professional services, and all of our clients are. So I know Brad had a question for you specifically about offers, which is where we'd like to really kind of dig into next.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like Janelle said, I mean, marketing's all about the offer, right? It's about creating it, communicating it, delivering it. And you're exchanging this offer. There should be some perceived or real value for your client, right? To receive this offer. So, So I wanted to ask you, Cameron, like how did you create your offer, and what is it exactly? What is your offer?
So how did we create it? I probably don't even remember. I probably just this is what we can do for you.
Everyone
That's
starts
probably how
that
it started. I do remember I used to have like this Excel sheet, and I'd have like three columns, and I'd have like the little check boxes of showing like, see, you only get three things here, five here, and 10 here, which was okay. Probably if I were to ever find it, it probably looks trash now.
way.
Versus now, our offer is, how would I word it? Our offer is the same thing, but just split up into three different packages. Our offer is we want to help you with strategic financial growth and save you money at the same time so that you're not a slave to your business. Nobody that I know of, at least, is like, I just love to work. I was just born to work. Like, this is all I do. No, we're working for some type of reasoning. Typically, you hear like financial freedom, time freedom, want more time with the kids, want to travel. So, how do I help you to get there? Well, if we strategically attack your finances and put plans and roadmaps and projections and different things in place, then you should be able to enjoy that because we've set up the proper nest eggs and savings and tax spendings and different things of that nature. So that's what we push. That's what's in our content. That's what we talk about. That's what people hopefully know us for. And that's the offer. Now, we have three packages, right? If there's somebody who's only making, let's say, 15 grand, you don't need the top package. And we'll tell them that on the call. You don't need CFO. That's not what you don't need this high-end strategy. Your strategy is you need to make more sales. That's your strategy. Let's keep it
Hmm.
super simple. Now, the person that we've signed that, like we have somebody that makes like 180 grand a month, you may need CFO because of the volume. You have over 20 people on payroll. You're trying to figure out how to use your money, et cetera, et cetera. So the offer is still technically the same, which is strategic financial growth and tax strategy so that you can save more money. But it's just a matter of how much of my time are you getting versus the team and what exactly do you need. So I would always encourage another accountant, do start with what is everything you want to do. So let's say, just to keep it easy, it's 10 things. That's the top package. All right. Take out three to five of those. That's your middle package. This is the one where you want to push most people to because it's probably the most bang for your buck and probably the best balance of your time and the team. And then take away and only leave like two or three things. That's your base package. That still needs to be different than the next person's base package. But this should be the thing that super low your time. Your team can mostly handle, fulfill, and deliver on its own and it's taking you between maybe we'll just say 2 to 4 hours a month to do. Notice I said a month, not a week,
Hmm.
to do.
Right.
So that's kind of how ours are. Let's just say it's three on the front end, 5 to 6 in the middle, and then 10 at the top. Now, do we try to sell the top package the most? Not really, because I'm not trying to. There's only going to be so many full blown CFO packages you can sell because that takes up the most of my time, which means now I've just created another job, right? Unless I
Hmm.
got somebody that I can train that's better than me that can also do the same thing. So we always were taught you want everybody to go to the middle. So that middle package needs to solve 80 to 85% of every problem that your normal ICA would have. That top one, it should solve everything, but it's going to be way more time intensive. And that bottom one, it's kind of like we want you in, we want you to work with us, but you don't need me as much. I'm here to oversee, but the team can handle.
Hmm.
So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did. So, Cameron, so I understand you have these three packages, but you're only presenting one of them though at the time. Like you have
Correct,
that.
because my sales coach, who will not be named, says you don't give people options when you sell. You tell them just like the doctor, right? When you go to the doctor's not like, well, hey, I got five medicines. Which one you want? You
Hmm.
know, that's not
Yeah.
how
Right.
that goes. He says, hey, based on what you told me, based on what I'm hearing you say, and based on my experience, I need to give you Advil or Tylenol or an asthma pump or whatever. He's telling you the specific thing. So I used to do it that way. Hey, Here's all three of our packages. Here's the difference. Here's a little chart that shows the difference. But my sales coach taught me that, hey, people don't know what they know, and you're giving them too many options.
Mhm.
If you know that the middle package is the best one, then all you need to tell them is, hey, based on everything you told me and the fears you shared, and you mentioned tax strategy and how you want this financial strategy to help you do A, B, and C, that's best solved with our middle package. And then you technically don't even say middle package. You just say with our growth package. And then
Right.
that's it. So I've even continued, especially this year, trying to learn to even be better in how we present the offer, just because I do like, hey, I think you fall in between, the base package and the middle package. But I don't want to force you. You tell me which one you think would fit for you.
Yeah, I like that
No,
a lot because I think what that's doing is it's elevating you as the expert. I mean, you're the professional. You're the one, just like us, when we're working with a new firm, we view it as we're the professionals. We know based on our assessment what you need, and we're going to make that one recommendation. We've seen firms actually put out multiple packages and let the client choose. And I think that's a mistake because what ends up happening is it is no decision. People will kind of wax and wane, like, oh, I don't know, or else they'll go for the cheapest one. I think
I
as
was about to say
professionals,
that's what we've seen. They would
yeah,
typically go for the cheaper one, and then you get frustrated as the service provider because you're like, that's not going to solve the problem,
right.
which means I'm not going to have a high LTV because you're going to be dissatisfied, even though you picked it because you wanted to go for cheaper.
Yes.
Versus, to your point, all right, let's just use easy numbers. If the low one is 850 and the middle one is 1500 or 1250, whatever, I know this is more expensive. But if I did a good job closing all the loops, clearly defining how we help and save the day for you, it's gonna be 1250. I'm
Hmm.
not even gonna bring up the 850. I'm not even gonna bring up the $3,000 for the CFO or $5,000 or whatever.
Hmm.
Hey, we can solve this problem for you. It's gonna
Hmm.
be 1250 a month, monthly retainer. That's gonna hit every month on the first.
Does
Does that make sense?
And
If you
it
wait for
Cam,
them,
oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done. Sorry about that. So, when you make this offer, you're selling them like everything that they need to solve their problem. Correct? Is that
correct.
what you're saying? Right. And then how are you dealing with it when you've defined the scope of what you're providing them, and you're addressing all of their needs, but then they come to you later and they want something else maybe that's outside of the scope. How do you handle that?
Great question.
It's just a conversation. We kind of build our packages to where there's a little scope already included, but we're focusing more on consulting anyway. So our packages are a little bit more open ended versus maybe the average accountant is just doing bookkeeping only. Well, that's very specific. Like it's literally bookkeeping, financials. Sure, you can ask me some questions. In our case, with consulting being added on, there's a lot more flexibility and interaction between the client. So that's not really a need unless typically what kind of triggers that they start making more money. Well, by default, they're making more money. That means they're hiring more people, they're spending more, they have a totally different scope of questions, tax returns and stuff change. So then that's when you just have to have a conversation. Hey, we've been with you for X amount of time and we want to continue to serve you at a high level, but we need to devote more resources to do that. Or I think I can now solve these different problems by offering you this thing. So I feel really strongly that we should upgrade your package to this. The price is this. What are your thoughts on that? How do we make this happen? And you just have to have the conversation. I'm not saying it's hard or easy, but you know yourself, you know your worth. Nobody can really tell you that. I guess the market could technically,
Hmm.
because if they don't buy it, then that tells you. But you just have to be willing to talk to people. We tried that for a client recently. We've been with them for 3 years. They were making 20 grand when we first started. Now they just started hitting 100K months. I'm like, hey, we need to upgrade your package from the middle to the top package because you're starting to ask me things that I need to spend even more time going to find out research or whatever the case,
Hmm.
which I would love to do. And I definitely don't want to disserve this be at a disservice to you by not giving you the proper support. So I would strongly suggest that we upgrade your package and that you would get these things. He said, all right, let's get on a call. We said the same thing. And he said right now, this time, he didn't want to do it. Not because he didn't see the value, but because he had just got to the 100K and increased his team by three. He's like, let me kind of make sure my money's going in the right places and we're having stuff left over. And if so, then of course I'd love to revisit this in 2 or 3 months. Cool, no problem. Doesn't mean I get upset or let me not serve him so he can see. No, you keep serving and doing it with a spirit of excellence. And then you just make your note, hey, in 2, 3 months or next quarter, we're going to revisit this again. And hopefully I kept doing a great job to where that's an easier conversation.
That's a gold nugget right there.
Uh,
And I love it because what you're saying is you're so close to, you've got your packages so well defined, you've made your initial recommendation, and you follow that client so that when they grow and they grow into another package, it's an upsell opportunity, but you're proactively having that conversation with them, which is what I love. I love that. And then you're using some of that potential scope creep to trigger those conversations, which is super important. And it is a conversation. It's not a hard sell. It's just a conversation. Hey, here's the facts. I think I can serve you better this way. Here's why. You want to do it? Great. You don't? No problem. Then we'll keep doing what we're doing. So I love the approach.
yeah, it's great. And also, I'm sure you know, because you're involved in their business, you know what's going on. And so you know when you can reach out to them, you know, if something specific comes up. Um, but do you have a regular cadence with your follow up with your clients? And if so, like, kind of what can you?
Explain follow up.
So, like, are you checking in with your clients, just saying, hey, you know, I'm just, you know, just calling to see how you're doing, and like, just, you know,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
thing?
So for us, because we focus a lot more on the consulting side, I mean, we're probably a lot different. We have Slack channels for every client. So pretty much we're talking to our clients. I hate saying it like this, but every week for some reason, whether that's, hey, I saw you went to Big Bubba's barbecue. What is that? Or what are some other examples? Running payroll every week. Hey, this is what we have. Can you just double check it before we push it through? Or hey, I had a question. Or like we've had one client that's really been struggling, like dealing with burnout lately. Like one time we just got on a call. I'm like, bro, let's talk through this. And I told him like, take a week off of your business, and then we'll come back and talk in 2 weeks. So like yesterday, I literally just sent him a message saying like, hey, just checking in. And he starts talking about. I'm like, no, I'm like, just how are you doing? But I appreciate you for telling me. But how are you? He was like, oh, okay. So I think, keeping that personalized touch is super key. But
Yeah.
then again, in our case, I tried on purpose to build our firm to be a high touch one. So the hardest thing or challenge has been for us is for my team to understand why do we need to reach out to them, right? So like yesterday we did pre-close review. They were telling me some of the answers, and I'm like, why didn't you just go ask the client this? That's an excuse to talk to them, which in their mind says, oh, dang, they really looking at my stuff like that. They really care. Like, that's a great question.
Hmm.
Even though to us, we may already pretty much know the answer, but it gives the perception that we're really spending the time really looking and digging. So I think you have to build those touch points in, or else you just become the commodity. You're the one that's easy to replace if something cheaper does come up. Even if you are charging higher, and if you are charging higher, it should be that much more of a something you should be pushing to have higher touch. So that way they're not like, oh, I'll never talk to my guy anyway. He only does the basics. Shoot, I might as well go find somebody that can do it for 200, not $1,000 a month. Well, no, no, no. We talk to them all the time. They have a Slack channel. We're saving them strategies. We're sending videos. We know their address. We're sending gifts. Like that's been a good thing
Hmm.
that we're getting back on. So you have to figure out how to make yourself special to stand out. And I think just being proactive and talking to the people is always going to be top notch there.
100%.
Absolutely, Cameron. I think that's awesome what you're doing there. Also, have do you see like a real impact on that? Like, probably you didn't do that all the time, and you evolved into that high touch point. Um, kind of service, do you see like you're retaining clients more now because of it, and you have like hard numbers on that?
Do I have hard numbers on it? No. I do know towards the beginning, I feel like it was easier for people to leave, but that's because we hadn't moved into the consulting piece yet. So I mean, it's commodity to commodity, right? Like, why do we go choose Shell instead of Racetrack? I'm just picking based on a convenience and who has the cheapest price. Versus now, I think we set that expectation correctly on the front end on that discovery call and during the onboarding to where they understand this is not just bookkeeping. This is not just accounting. He like the guy we did yesterday, we did an onboarding call that went over. It was like 2.5 hours. I kid you not. The guy was freaking out at the beginning of the call because it's like numbers, they just, oh, it's making me anxious. Like I just can't. So we had to do like a whole breathing thing for like first 10 minutes. But by the time we finished, he was like, dude, this was so good. I feel so much better. I feel so much more confident. Goes out to Facebook. Somebody's asking for a recommendation. He literally says, literally just got off the call with Cameron and his team with onboarding, and they are amazing. The guy reaches out and has already booked the call.
Oh my gosh.
So that's what you want, but you have to know your whys, know your product. What are you trying to do so that you can facilitate this? And again, everybody's service is not built that way. We try to be a premium service anyway, so it works for us. Back when I was doing the original bookkeeping, years 1 and 2, I didn't necessarily need to talk to you that much. I was just concerned on fulfilling the work and getting paid versus we're a completely different business and have evolved from there.
That is such a great message. I think to kind of wrap things up, what advice would you have to a small firm who's trying to break out and get to that next level? What would you tell them to do? Maybe the first 2 or 3 things.
Ooh. Outside of niche down, because I know they
Yep.
said that they tell y'all that every time, so we'll skip that one.
Okay.
I think you need to grow your audience.
Love it.
I think you need to speak the language of your audience.
Ah, love that. Yes.
Mhm.
And you said 2 to 3. Speak the language of your audience and keep learning. So I'll give an example for all those. So growing your audience for us, where do marketing agencies hang out a lot?
Hmm.
On social. So if they're on LinkedIn, I need to be on LinkedIn. If they're on Facebook, I need to be there. So let me get as many Facebook friends that are that. So that way they even, who is this guy? Let me see his name. Let me see what is he posting about. So there's that. What did I say was the second one? Grow your audience.
Keep learning.
That was the
Keep
last
learning.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought keep learning was the last. Okay,
it
keep
was the last
learning.
one.
The way that I sell now is not the way I sold last year or earlier this year or 3 years ago. So you have to keep learning on your weaknesses or perceived weaknesses. I know I'm not the best at marketing. So for me, let me get around people who are doing it at a good level and what can I take from them? Why did you word that post like that? Why did you space it like that? Why do you have a picture versus you don't have a picture? Why are you using emojis versus not? Why do you have a hook? Like I had to kind of ask these questions to these people, and then I start learning, and then I try it. So be willing to learn that. I didn't have to sell anything as an accountant. You just show up and do the work. That was the boss's job. So hey, I need to invest in me some sales training. How do I present this offer in the right way? How do I close loops? I didn't even know what that is. So shout out to my coach because he's going to be laughing. How do I better close loops or restate the problems, or what is my body language like? Like I learned, he said at the beginning, I was like completely ignoring the alley oops they were giving me because I was so focused on taking notes. So he's like, stop taking notes, make eye contact, make sure you're closing these loops and restating. So continuously learn. You're always going to get better at accounting. But I mean, to be honest with you, accounting has not changed really since I was in school. So
Hmm.
that's been the same. But how we serve clients has changed. How we're selling, how we're leading, how we're talking to the clients, how we're interacting, giving them gifts. Those things have changed drastically versus, I mean, debits and credits are going to be the same.
Right.
So those would be probably my 2 or 3 things that I would suggest. Continue to grow the audience, stay consistent, keep learning. and just pushing yourself to be better, and try to get out of fulfillment as soon as possible. I
Right.
forgot that.
Yeah, that's a good
That's
one. And then I would
that's
add one more to that because it's a resounding theme with what you do, which is that be proactive, build that relationship. And
Oh,
that's not very natural for a lot of accountants. It's stepping out of that comfort zone. But because people do interact differently today than they did maybe back in 1980 or 1990, even, it's absolutely mission critical to have that proactive communication in place. So,
Yeah, and first of all, I want to say that you're a great marketer, even though
mhm.
you're saying that you're not. You really are very, very good at that.
see, y'all, I
Uh,
convinced the marketing people that I'm a good marketer.
You are.
yes, no, you're doing some fantastic things there. Also, something that's fairly new to me, but you really just kind of said it, is that the real value, the most value, is really not in the execution of the work. It's actually in all the stuff that's not that part. It's all of the communication, the client retention, the explaining of the value, the telling and the coaching of the strategy and what you need to do. That kind of part is really the most valuable, and is what it's the expertise that you're providing there, and that's how you're able to charge a premium.
I think that's a
Yeah,
really
and I
good way to.
think, and I say this all the time, the accounting industry, I think we've done our clients a disservice, and I'm on record for saying this. So if they want to, pull up and square up, we can do that. But we think that like this is value. Hey, these are office supplies. Everybody and their mama know that. Nobody needs to pay you to tell them that. But somewhere along the line, we thought that that's the value. No, the value is not in that. The value is, hey, you're overspending in office supplies. How can we bring that down? Or, hey, you're over the average in your industry for payroll is 55% and yours is at 79%. How do we fix that? How do we adjust it? Okay, you don't want to fire your team because you love them. Great. Well, what task are you doing? Can you be given to them since you're going to keep paying them? Might as well get some of that off your plate. What can those be? Because then that will free you up to go do more marketing and sales because you told me you want to hit 100K a month and you're only at 65, but you barely take sales calls. What is your closing percentage, by the way? Oh, you don't know? Go back. Your homework is to go back and figure that out. Well, what's your packaging? Oh, you don't know what your pricing is? Well, we need to come. Let's figure out those three packages. So that way, now I can start reverse engineering. Hey, if you close two people out of every five, 40% at 2,500 a month, well, that's 5 grand per month in MRR that you're adding. So then all we got to do is do 65 plus five, do the math to get to 100. That's going to take that time. But don't forget, you still have churn. So that's what's valuable to our people, at least, not me. I send people, half of our clients, I send them a monthly video that is 10 minutes or less that breaks down the P&L and balance sheet. I guarantee you they don't look at it because I get a notification when they do.
Right.
They
That's
don't
so
look
true.
at it.
Yeah.
Right now, I just spent 10 minutes trying to make sure this video looks nice and look at this. They don't watch it. Why? Because they don't care until they have a need. That need is what you address. The need is I need to hire somebody else, or I want to pay myself more, or I want to go on vacation, or can I afford to go to this conference? Those are the needs that you address in your marketing and in your sales and that you attack. Not, hey man, you're out of compliance. You need clean books. They don't care about that. And it took a mentor for me to understand that. And once I did, then I was able to change the language in my marketing. And that's kind of how we got to where we were. So,
I think
yeah.
that's a really good way to wrap things up for today is really ending on that note of value and for everyone who's listening to step back and understand what is it that is the real value that your customers want, identifying that ICA or that ideal client avatar and understanding what value really means to them. So Cameron, thank you so much for coming on with us today. We appreciate you so much. We look forward to seeing you in person in a couple of weeks. And thank you so much for your time.
Hey, maybe we can talk them into doing a part 3 live in
Ooh,
person, y'all. You
Ooh,
never know.
wow! Now
that
But
you're
would
in the
be fun.
talking.
meantime, whatever they told y'all to do, do that. If they said stop being a generalist, y'all need to just listen to what they said. They're trying to help you because they making money. They trying to help you make more money. So
Thank
I'm
you.
just saying.
Thank you, Cameron.